Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Monday morning, the day after a disappointing draw for Arsenal against bottom of the table Burnley yesterday at the Emirates. Goalless, again, 0-0, really frustrating day for Arsenal, for Mikel Arteta, for the fans. It was a really odd game yesterday. I went there and I have to admit I was expecting it to be pretty rubbish. You kind of knew Arsenal at the moment. They're not playing the best football. They're missing some key players in midfield, which is not helping with the balance of the team at all. They're struggling for goals, and you just knew what Burnley were going to do. They were going to sit in. They were going to eat everything up that came in the way of sort of crosses or aerial balls into the penalty area, and it was going to be down to Arsenal to break them down, really. And we've seen at times against that sort of defence, a low block against a team not really committing to coming out, Arsenal tend to struggle. And they did. It was just one of the, in my head, it was exactly how the game was going to pan out. I was hoping, and I thought Arsenal would probably just about have enough to edge it. It was going to be kind of similar to the Watford match, I thought, earlier in the season, when they won that 1-0, when they hadn't been playing well and they just had to win. It was just all about the points, but they didn't get the goal yesterday. Had the chance, that man behind me, Alexander Lacazette, missing that really big chance in the second half when Emil Smith-Rowe did superbly to set him up down the left-hand side, cut the ball back, and Lacazette got his foot to it, but he poked it wide of the far post when pretty much the goal was gaping. That was the big chance. There were other chances as well. Smith-Rowe having the shot saved in the second half from that smartly worked corner routine. Lacazette missing a good chance in the first half when he ran through, sliced his shot wide. Odegaard had one saved. Lacazette had the follow-up blocked. There were chances there for Arsenal, but they just couldn't get the goal, and it's been the story of their month so far. January has been a miserable month for Arsenal. When you look back in December and the way they ended it, and the goals that were going in, I think they won 5 in a row at the end of December, scored 19 goals in those 5 games. And then since then, it's been 5 games in January, no wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats, 1 goal, 3 red cards. It's just been a really disappointing month. They've gone out of 2 cup competitions and they've lost ground in the race for top 4. It's not, season over, anything like that. You've seen the result yesterday, Tottenham losing at Chelsea. They're still banging the hunt for the top 4, but yesterday was a big opportunity missed to get 3 points on the board, and you wonder if they might end up regretting that come the end of the season, because it's going to be really tight who gets in the top 4, and you can't really afford to dropping points at home to Burnley. It was a game Arsenal should have won. They just didn't quite have the quality in the final third in a tight game, in an edgy game, to get themselves over the line, and that's really frustrating. And it kind of says where they are right now and where the squad is right now. I do think that the midfield is a big issue. I've said it many times. I think you got Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka in that midfield, and it just looks a different team. I think the attack looks more balanced. You get Smith-Rowe and Odegaard further up the pitch, and they can provide goals. But when they're playing in this 4-3-3 system that we saw yesterday, and they're playing deeper, they're just not in and around the areas you really want them to hurt the opposition as much. They were there at times, we saw it, and I thought Odegaard played really well again last night. His movement was great, and he was dragging players out, and I think that was really sort of struck me yesterday, was how good Odegaard's movement was and how many times he dragged a defender out of position and allowed Saka to find some space on the right-hand side. So they were there, but just not there often enough, and I think that's really been hurting Arsenal. And the 4-3-3 for me, it just doesn't work. Hopefully, this is the last time we see it, because once they come back now from this mid-season break, winter break, whatever you want to call it, they're going to be looking a lot stronger in terms of their squad. They're going to have both Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka back from suspension. Nicolas Pepe should be back, giving yourself another option going forward. And even Mohamed Elneny will be back. That gives you another option to make sure you don't have to play this 4-3-3. So hopefully that's the last we've seen of that formation. And once they come back for the games against Wolves and Brentford after the mid-season break, then things are going to be looking back. And hopefully there might be at least one new addition by then as well. Transfer window shuts 7 days from now. Arsenal trying to do business. Mikel spoke about it after the game yesterday, admitting they're trying, but they've just found it difficult at the moment. The market's complicated. All the usual manager talk when it comes to the transfer window. It's far from a given that Arsenal will make an addition between now and then. They're trying. They want to get a midfielder. They want to get a striker. But what do you do if those players aren't available? Do you just buy players for the sake of it? Arsenal have done that in the past in January, and you look at Denis Suarez and disasters like that. It doesn't always work. Do you really need to just do it for the sake of it? You do it if you've got a quality player. I think certainly when it comes to the striker, that's a really important one. You don't, if you're signing a striker, you don't just do it for the sake of it. You do it for the long term. And, it's a tough one. I tried to explain it on Twitter this morning when I was talking about it. You can't really panic buy a striker, can you? Because you're committed then. Unless you get someone in on loan for 6 months. People have said Jovic, stuff like that. He's actually been playing this season at Real Madrid. Is he going to leave on loan? I don't know. Not that I've heard of. But unless you get someone on loan, then you're kind of committed to a striker. And, you can't be affording to wasting money on a striker you don't really want, that you're signing just for the sake of it because one of your main priority targets isn't available at this stage. So do you just try and go through to the end of the season and then go in the summer? It's a really difficult situation. There's only 7 days left in the window. Nothing's really progressed so far, so it's going to be difficult. I mean, all the noise has been about Vlahovic. I've spoken to him length before. It's never been one, I know everyone's been talking about it, but it's never been one that I've been told to have much confidence in. There was any chance of it really happening. 7 days to go, that could change. Arsenal could suddenly have a major breakthrough. They could get him on board. But from what I've understood since, November time, is that yes, he's a player that everyone's looking at and would like to get, but is he realistic to get? I don't know. And certainly with this late on in the window and you're getting no real signs of encouragement from the player or the agent, it's just looking like a really difficult deal to do. So what do you do then? There's other players we've mentioned. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we know Arsenal like him. Tough to get in January. Jonathan David, we know Arsenal like him. From what I understand, he won't be leaving in January. He'll be leaving in the summer. Isaac, possibly the most attainable out of all of them just because he's got a release clause, so it doesn't matter what the club think. You can just pay the release clause and go and get him like Arsenal did with Thomas Partey, but that release clause is an awful lot of money. And does he guarantee you goals? Isaac, he's a clever player, he's a good player, promising player. Is he an absolute goal machine? I mean, his record says no. So is he worth spending that sort of money because another player that you want isn't available? It's a really, really difficult one. And I know you guys are all desperate for signings. I've seen it all the time, all the messages I get on social media, but it's just really, it's a tough one. I want a striker as much as you do. I want someone to bang the goals in that Laka missed yesterday that guarantee Arsenal 3 points. But I still think the Orba situation is a really difficult one, because if you're not going to sign yourself a striker, which is far from a foregone conclusion at this stage of the window, then you've got a striker who's proven can score goals at the very top level, at the Premier League level, still sitting in your squad. So surely you need to patch things up with him as well. It's a tough one. We'll have to wait and see. I wish I could sit here right now and tell you that Arsenal are going to sign a striker. They're going to sign Vlahovic. If not, they're going to sign Calvert-Lewin. But I can't. I just really can't. And it's going to be an intriguing last 7 days of the window. Let me know what you think. Anyway, what should Arsenal do? What were your initial thoughts after yesterday's game? Is a striker key to top four, or can Arsenal still manage to get themselves top four if they don't sign a striker between now and deadline day in 7 days' time? Let me know your thoughts. As always, intrigued to hear them. Midfielder-wise, before I kind of move on, unfortunately, again, I kind of feel like I'm sounding like a broken record at the moment, but there's just nothing, as far as I'm aware, that anything's moved on in terms of the Arthur situation. He remains the kind of midfielder that Arsenal are hoping that they can get a deal done with. They remain talking with the agents, they remain talking with Juventus, but as of yet, Juventus haven't given that deal a green light. There's still 7 days to go. That might happen, but people that I speak to over in Italy, who know Juventus very well, have always sort of stuck to the same track, and that's that they need to sign a replacement for them to let Arthur go. At the moment, we're hearing that Bentancur is being linked with Aston Villa. I mean, if he goes there, then what does that mean for Arsenal trying to get Arthur? Would Juventus be willing to let two midfielders go in the window? They're struggling to let one go at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But in terms of the transfer window, it's not looking like anything is imminent. Let's put it that way. When it comes to Arsenal, I do think that, as I mentioned earlier on, that things are going to look an awful lot stronger once you come back from the winter break, because you're going to have Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, Mohamed Elneny available in midfield, which is certainly going to bolster things an awful lot. I actually think Sambi Lokonga's done pretty well. I thought Lokonga was good yesterday. Arteta spoke about him after the game, and for such a young player who wasn't supposed to play anywhere near about the minutes that he has done this season, I think he's done really, really well. And he's basically running that midfield on his own at the moment. He's not world class. We know that he's a kid still, but he's at least trying to make things happen, and I thought he tried to make things happen when he could yesterday in what was a very difficult situation. So I think he's done well, and ultimately I think he'll learn pretty well from this experience of basically having a run of midfield on his own with none of the experienced senior stars around him to help him. But it's certainly going to be a big boost after the break once Partey and Granit Xhaka are back and they can kind of settle back into that relationship that was beginning to build before Partey went away on international duty. And I think Arsenal, when they have those two back in midfield, like I said earlier, it's just going to give them so much more balance. That's going to help with the attacking threat. That's going to help them score more goals, because the two players that you want, Smith Rowe and Odegaard, can play higher up the pitch and be in that position. Arsenal have just missed having a number 10, an out-and-out number 10 in recent games, because Odegaard's been having to play so deep. And I think that's really hurt them when it comes to scoring goals and creating opportunities and breaking teams down. So I do think that will improve, and that will help Arsenal in the grand scheme of things after the winter break. But that's not to say that Arsenal don't need reinforcements. I think it's pretty obvious that they do. And if you can at least get one in before next Monday, that would be great. But if you can get two and get yourself a midfielder and a striker, then there's no doubt that Arsenal will be a far stronger position when it comes to trying to get themselves top four. But you don't just do that on anyone, as I mentioned before. You don't just go and throw money on any striker because you can't get the ones that you're trying to get in. I don't think that's going to, for the long-term health of the club and the squad, I don't think that's going to do anyone any good if you end up panic buying at this stage of the window. So in terms of what happens next, no game for a long time now. I think it's 2.5 weeks till that game at Wolves on the Thursday night in February. So we can all calm down a little bit, I think, and take stock. And it's far from a nightmare position for Arsenal to be in at the moment. I think at the start of the season, if you'd have offered them to be in this position at this stage of the season, everyone would probably taken their hands off. They're still well in the hunt for the top four, and that's got to be the ultimate ambition this season. And I think almost it was at the start of the season, probably people were thinking it was an unrealistic ambition. Did you really sort of sit there and think Arsenal guarantee, have got a good shot at the top four? I didn't. I have to admit, I thought top six was going to be progress for Arsenal this season, but they've given themselves a chance now. And you would hope they can come back and really sort of kick on over their second half of the season. They go to Dubai during the winter break. I think they're due to leave on Thursday for that. Pretty much all the squad, whether Aubameyang will be there, remains to be seen. I don't think a firm decision has been taken on that yet. Mikel was asked about it after the game yesterday, but didn't give anything away. I think there'll certainly be talks when it comes to Aubameyang this week at London Colney. There is that bid that's in for him from El Nassr. Doesn't feel like one that he would probably want at this stage. I think David Ornstein wrote a piece today in The Athletic saying that he'd heard that Orba would prefer to stay in Europe, and at this stage, and you can't really blame him for that as well. Arsenal haven't even responded to El Nassr's bid yet, because I think they probably want to find out what's happening with their striker situation before they do that. But if a bid comes in for Orba between now and then from a top European side, will Arsenal accept it? We'll have to wait and see, but it doesn't seem like he will be going to Dubai just yet unless something big changes. Jack Wilshere is going, but still, Arsenal are saying that's not one that's going to happen in terms of a sign-in at the end of the month. You never know if they haven't managed to get a midfielder in. Would they turn to him? Who knows? Tomiyasu, I don't think Tommy's going to go unless he's going to go there just to sort of be a part of the travelling squad, because he has this calf injury that Mikel spoke about yesterday. That's why Ben White played at right back, Tomiyasu, and is in treatment for this calf injury. And Mikel saying afterwards, a few weeks, he said in one press conference, but I think he said to Arsenal on their media channel 2 weeks. So hopefully he might be back for the Wolves game, because Arsenal certainly missed Tomiyasu, and it's clearly a big risk playing him in that match against Liverpool. It was obvious he wasn't anywhere near fit. You could tell that by his performance, and now he's out for a couple of weeks as well. So it's a risk that didn't really pay off, but Arsenal didn't really have any other options when it came to the right back against Liverpool. Okay, before I end this video, let's quickly go player ratings for yesterday. As you can imagine, not too high on this one. No one really stood out for me. Martin Odegaard was man of the match, in my opinion. Aaron Ramsdale, I'm going to give a 6-2. A couple of nervy moments again. One flapper across in the first half. Going for a little bit of a drop in form, I'd say, at the moment, Ramsdale, but he still made a couple of important saves during the game. One from that cross in the first half, could have sneaked in at the near post, but he was alert to it. I'm going to give him a 6. Ben White, I'm going to give a 5, which is interesting because I was looking at the stats earlier. I think Ben White had the most touches, most passes. He did a few things really well, but I just give him a 5 because he just basically offered up at Arsenal nothing down that right-hand side, which was and it was very, very noticeable. I think it's not his fault. He's not a right back, is he? He's a centre back or possibly a centre midfielder. He's not really a right back, and I just feel Arsenal were lacking in threat from the fullback position down that right hand side. I'm going to give White a 5. Holding and Gabriel both get 6 for me. Tierney gets a 6 as well. Tierney needs to work on his crossing. That was such a strength of Tierney not so long ago, but he seems to be struggling a little bit in the final third when he gets himself into some good positions. I thought his final ball was pretty poor yesterday. I gave him a 6, but to be honest, it was probably nearer a 5 than a 6 actually, because he disappointed me a little bit yesterday. Sambi, I'm going to give it a 7. I thought he tried to make things happen. He got himself on the ball in that midfield area where he was left on his own often. Odegaard gets a 7. He's my man of the match. I thought everything good that Arsenal did with through Odegaard, if anything was going to happen, it was going to be mainly down to him, I thought, and he gets a 7. Smith Rowe, I'm going to give a 6. Couple of good moments for Smith Rowe. I mean, his run for the chance for Lacazette was fabulous. Really unfortunate not to get an assist there. He gets a 6. Saka, I'm going to give a 5. Martinelli, I'm going to give a 6, and Lacazette, I'm going to give a 5. Lacazette worked hard. He really did. He didn't stop, but when the chances came his way, he just didn't take them, and that was really, really crucial. I had one in the first half, slightly more difficult one in the first half, and it was a good run from him to set it up. But the one in the second half, you've just got to score that in a tight game when chances are a premium. If you get an opportunity like that, you've got to take it. He didn't, and ultimately that stopped Arsenal getting the 3 points. So he gets a 5, but in truth, it's probably nearer a 4 for me. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time as always. Please do stay tuned to my social media channels and Goal for all your Arsenal news. Hopefully, we'll have quite a bit to report between now and next Monday. You'd think Arsenal are potentially going to be one of the busiest Premier League clubs. Probably not as busy as Newcastle, but potentially one of the busiest in trying to get deals done. It's just a case of whether they can get them over the line or not. Have a great day, everyone. Try and forget about the football for 24 hours or so, and I'll speak to you soon.